Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to R Squared Technology. I am your host Ryan, and let's get ready to SolidWorks. Happy hump day everyone, welcome back. As usual, it's the middle of the week, hope you all are surviving. In today's video, we will be bringing all of the previous parts we've been modeling from the Instagram page 3D Design Works. Their Instagram handle, of course, will be in the description below, as well as my Instagram. Check us both out and give us both a follow. So we've been working on different parts for the Pawl mechanism, and we are going to create the assembly today. So with that, let's get started. Alright, so this video is kind of a treat in a sense, and giving you a head start to something that we will be doing in future videos on Friday's tutorial videos. So, I'm not going to go into super depth about everything regarding assemblies. That's reserved for Friday. But you're going to get an idea of how assemblies work. So, with that, again, you'll want to make sure that the parts are all in the same file folder. It's not necessary, but I can tell you that you will lose association real quickly if one of those parts gets moved around. You'll have to reassociate it. In other words, like if you open an assembly and you've moved a part to a different folder, it will let you know it doesn't know where this piece is. Do you want to locate it? It gives you a certain amount of time, and then if you don't locate it, then it suppresses the part and it basically omits it from the assembly. So again, there's a lot of details when it comes to assemblies and keeping it organized and functional. And there's even further details to go over to say if you want to email an assembly to a client, the best way to do it. Not going to show you how to do that in this video though. That's for a future video. So with that, there's just kind of 3D space. We're not drawing anything and modeling individual parts anymore. We've already done that. We've already associated with planes, so they should work out how we want to in the assembly. However, if for some reason the orientation is different than the assembly I'm working from, it's okay. We can correct that. So we'll start with the base pieces here. So I've created an assembly file, which you do File, New, and choose Assembly and click OK. Now from here I'll hit Control S and we'll save this as the Pawl mech. We can make it short. Mech. ASM-R1. Your naming convention can be whatever you want it to be. That's just what I'm going to call it. So, millimeter gram second for this. And again, up here is your options icon to change that. So, from here, graphics view, we can make it isometric. It's really not going to matter. We're going to come into the assembly tab here. This is not a tab you will see in part files per se, but rather in assembly files. So we'll insert the component. Now we're going to pick what that is. So my base has actually been made in an orientation a little bit different than what we see in the image, which is okay. So what I'm going to do is make sure that in the options, if available, you use the option to float it rather than fix it. Because if you fix it, I mean, you can use fix, that's fine. You click and it fixes it in place. However, I like to align things with this front, top, and right plane, which this part may not be aligned with it by just dropping it in fixed. So I'll have to right click on that part and float it accordingly, and then go in and add the mates according to the planes that I want. But again, depending on what it is, you may not do that. But trying to make it centered, it might be best. So with this part, I'm actually going to delete it. And I'm going to reinsert it because I want to show you this. Again, because of the way the base was made, we actually need to rotate it about an axis. So in this case, looking at our gizmo here in the bottom left, you'll see the Y. That's what I want to rotate upon that axis to get it to appear as such. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to turn off Real View Graphics. Not necessary right now. Control S, rebuild and save the document. So now I left it on that fixed option. So again, we'll float it. And what we're going to do is we actually have a dimension we're going to work off here. So with that, the first thing I'm going to do is choose a front plane, click Mate up here in the top, which is an awesome little paperclip. And then I'm going to, in the graphics view, choose the little right drop down arrow, and I'm going to choose, for this one, the right plane, and align those. And then I want my top plane. We can align the top planes here. And then what we're going to do is choose the front plane. So over here it'll be the right plane, because again we had to rotate the part. That's where you're going to have to keep track of certain things. The planes may lose a specific orientation because of how you had to change it. So I'm going to choose the right plane, and I'm actually going to choose this edge face. Now notice it mated them together, but what we're going to choose is a distance mate. And now I have a distance defined here of 139.26. However, there's two of these base pieces, and that's the gap between them, and we're making the right plane the center of that, so divide by 2. And then from here we can click OK, and click OK again, hit Control S. And now what I'm actually going to do is, rather than reinsert this part again and go through that entire process, we can now simply select up here the right plane, and then we can come up here under linear component pattern, and we can mirror the component, and then we can choose in the box in the properties here, components to mirror, the base, click OK, and hit Control S again, save often, after every maneuver. So now we got our bases set. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the A-frame. So we'll come back up here, insert component, we're going to choose the A-frame, click open. I'm going to zoom it out just enough, and we're going to do only a few relations at the moment. So the first relation, and what I'm doing here, as usual, even within a part file, press and hold the center scroll wheel of the mouse to be able to manipulate the orientation. Of course, you can use the standard ones. You could arguably hit the space bar and choose the bottom view to be able to select this, but you may find that this is going to be just a little bit quicker. So what I want to do is I want to grab this bottom part here, and I will choose mate. Now granted, I don't have to have that selected first. You're going to find whichever method works quickest for you. You could start with simply, right, so hitting escape, making sure nothing is selected, select a mate, and then I can rotate the part, choose the bottom. Now it makes the part transparent because depending on what parts you have where, you may want to select what's within it or around it, behind it, whatever, so that helps with that selection capability. And then I'm going to choose this base, and then I want to make sure that it is coincident. Click OK. And it doesn't like that, so we've got some kind of angle going on here. Ah, yes. Sorry, I forgot. Again, so it's adding every part in a fixed position. So let's change that. So we'll insert the component. We'll make sure it's on float. Choose the part, open, in the properties over here, pick float. That way when I drop it in, because if it's fixed, it won't allow you to do any kind of relation. It'll actually break the relations of these, mates for these two parts in order to mate it with this part, because this part's fixed. So that's where the conflict happened there. So again, we'll choose mate. Scroll wheel zooming in and out just by scrolling. I'm going to select the bottom of the A-frame and the top of this base here. Click OK. And then what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to go, let's see, we're choosing the flyout here. We'll do the right plane with the right plane to center that, and then I'm going to click OK. So we're going to leave this partially undefined, and you'll see why in just a moment. So the next thing I'm going to do is insert the pin, click OK, select that, and then what we're going to do here is there's a couple of different ways we could mate this pin inside this hole here. We got to do one for both of these and many other parts too. This pin is going to be used multiple times, but in this particular case we'll start with a basic method for this one here. So I'm going to take this face here, we'll hit mate, and then I'm going to select this face of the A-frame. It's part 1. Now it can go anywhere, and this A-frame is still moving back and forth accordingly, because again we haven't fixed it in place yet, but we will. So what we'll do next is with the pin in the graphics view, we're going to take the right plane and the right plane of the A-frame, and we're going to mate those together. And then from here what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this face here, or this surface of the pin, and this inside, which is going to make it concentric. That'll work perfectly, and we'll click OK. And then the next thing we're going to do, now again I'll even drag it out here, I want to go off of the pin because this is going to determine the width between the two A-frames here. I'm going to take the pin's front plane and the base, specifically right plane, and that's going to position the A-frame on the base where I want it. And then I can click OK, hit Control S, and now the next thing we'll do here is I'm going to show you this unique trick. You can press and hold the Control key and then click on a part and drag out to duplicate it, if it's in the correct orientation you want, of course. And then I'm going to show you another way to add this in here. We're going to come up here, we're going to go into the visibility icon, and we're going to view temporary axis. And you can see the axis here, so I'll press and hold Control. Actually, we'll just select it first. I'll choose a mate, and there's a teeny little axis inside of here. So we'll line them up this way instead of off of this face. And then from here I'm going to turn off my temporary axis because I no longer need it. I'm going to select that end pin to the face, this face here, slide it in place. Then from here, we'll come down, find that second pin. I want the right and the A-frame, right pin. That's just so it won't rotate. So we'll make them parallel. Wants to break a mate, so cancel that. Let's make sure I got the right. So pin. Let me minimize my feature tree. There we go. I had the wrong part selected, I believe. So I'm going to cancel out of the mates for a moment. And I'll zoom in just for a moment. It's going to be hard to see, but it is actually in fact rotating. So again, what we'll do is in the feature tree, select, there's a better way to see it. Now you can see that it's spun because this right plane is at an angle of some sort. And then we're going to right click or press Control and select the right plane from the A-frame and mate that, and there you see it corrected it to a 90. Click OK, Control S, and now from here what we're going to do is from that first pin, you could do it from the first or second pin, it doesn't matter. We're going to choose its front plane, and then we're going to come up here and do another mirrored component. Then we're going to select the A-frame, click OK, Control S, and now it's starting to come together here. And then from here, we're going to throw in our next component, which is the ratchet wheel. And I'm going to add it here. And again, I really like to use temporary axis whenever possible. So I want to select this temporary axis and this one here. And select pin 1. If you technically select this one, it'd be the A-frame. Either one would work because they're both aligned, but I want to be very specific and say I want it to be on the centered about the axis of that pin. We'll mate that together there. And then what we'll do with the wheel itself is the ratchet wheel here. We're going to look at that front plane and we want to match it up to pin 1's front plane. Now we're going to just select OK. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and remove temporary axis view. I want it to be able to spin for now. Fancy. Now the next thing we're going to do is come up here. We're going to start building the handle. So to do that, first we're going to insert, and we're going to choose this middle link handle type, and we're going to set that up here. Again, I'm going to put on my temporary axis. There's my prompt. Hey, save the file. Control S, rebuild and save. I'm going to select the center cut holes axis and this second pins axis. Mate those. And then we're going to come over on this one, and actually what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this face here and the inside of the A-frame over here. Select that. And then now it can move, but this one they show it as a 90 in there. So what we'll do here is we're going to select this top face here, and in the drop down we can literally choose our top plane, and we want it to be just parallel for that, and click OK, and that's going to keep that fixed in place. So I'm going to leave temporary axis on for a moment, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to choose pin 2. We're going to choose the front plane from that. We're going to come up here, mirror the component, select this component, select OK. To duplicate, Control S again. And then what we'll do is I'll press and hold the Control key, and I'll click and drag to pull this pin out. Let go, press and hold the Control key, click on the pin again, and drag out. If you grab an edge though, it won't do it. Not in all cases. In this case it did, but sometimes when you grab a vertex, it won't allow you to duplicate. So if it happens, just make sure the part is unselected. So then from here what I can do, and it doesn't matter which pin goes where, I'm not going to be particular about it because they're all the same. Same thing, line up the axis, and again you'll notice that there isn't an axis that goes all the way through. You got the small axis for each hole. I don't care which one I mate, so like this one, we'll take this axis, press the Control key, select this axis, mate it together, click OK, and then I'll take this face here and this face here. Oops, we grabbed something wrong. Let me clear out of that. Make sure that can't move. So we want this end face of the pin, control this face here, mate, there we go. Click OK, then from here on this one, let's actually get this pin put in place too. Selecting those axes, again this face. Then from here what we'll do, now we got pins 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to minimize some of these for a moment. So there's pin 3, and I can actually also do this. I can take the right plane and this top face here, and that'll straighten it out. Again, these pins don't necessarily have to have that, but we're just going to fix them in place completely. And then pin number 4, same thing. I'll actually take the right plane and make it parallel to this top face here. Click OK. We're almost there. Hit the space bar and bring it isometric for a moment. Now we just have a few more things to add. So what we'll do now is add this link handle here. So insert, handle, open. And we're going to choose this center temporary axis and the pin. We'll mate that together. And then here I'm actually going to choose this back face and this face of this pin here. Mate it together. Now it doesn't show gaps, so actually we'll click OK. We're going to scroll all the way down here to the mates, which is the double paper clip in the feature tree. And that last one here, coincident 27, I'm going to edit that. And I'm actually going to delete this face here. And I'm going to choose this face. And I'm going to delete this face. And I'm going to choose this face here to bring it together. Then I'm going to click OK. Now I want this handle to spin because I've been giving it a dimension to work off of. So we're going to make sure a temporary axis is still defined here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this axis here and the top of this face here, and we're going to click mate. And then we're going to choose a distance, and that is 397.07, so 397.07. Click OK. Click OK again. And then from here, the last thing we got to do is the pawls themselves. So insert, choose the pawl, click OK. And we'll do this internal one first. So again, choose that axis, and I want the axis of the pin. We'll mate that together there. And then the next thing I want to do here, I just want to drag it out for better clarity of the plane. We're going to choose the front plane of that and pin 2. Front plane there to center that up. Now we're going to leave this free floating for a moment. Cancel that. Alright. We want this to be able to move. Oops, and you know what? I put this on the wrong pin. Apologies for that. Now notice, I deleted a part, and when you do that, there is still the potential for the history of the mates to be there. However, with this version and the way it's set up, history is not. You'll see grayed out history of mates from deleted parts if they appear here. So, we'll insert the component again, pawl, and it's actually meant to be on this one here. Select the axis, select the pin, mate, and that one was pin 3. So we'll choose the front. Oh, we can't do it off of that one. Okay, so this is a little different. That's fine. We'll actually base this off of pin 2 still. So front plane, and the pawl handle. Front plane, that'll center it for us. Perfect. Click OK real quick. I want to make sure, I gotta kind of grab this from below. I want to make sure that that moves, Because now the next thing is we're going to make these two faces. I'm going to select that and this face here. I'm going to mate them together. We want them to be a coincident mate there. Click OK. Click OK again. And I'm going to press the Control key on the keyboard, drag that part out again, make this axis, mate it with the 4th pin, and then I want to take pin 2 again. It's front plane. And this time I'm going to collapse pin 3, collapse R1, and we want the front plane there, so that's centered. And let's see if this actually jives. Should come down. So it's supposed to click on both of these. But as we can see here, it doesn't quite do that. So these will be a parallel. So that is the Pawl mechanism assembly. Control S. There's a slight offset here in this gear wheel that doesn't seem to be aligning with that second one. Now, there could be a different mechanical mate we could use to correct that, but I'm not going to go over that in this particular video. So, I hope you got a grasp in the beginning and kind of in-depth of an assembly file, not to be confused with the assembly programming language. I hope you were able to learn something from that. Again, there will be more broken down and in-depth tutorial videos covering assembly of part files. That is all I have for you now. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I will see you next Wednesday for yet a new part, either from here, the internet, Instagram, who knows where. Thin air. Take care, everyone.